Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I have today Alessandra Angelini from Altacino Winery, the great Brunello di Montacino property that we've represented for a long time at Winebow. And Alessandra, it's a very busy time of year at the winery, and we really appreciate that you're taking a few minutes to speak with us.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, as you were saying, it's quite funny because actually Winebow has been representing Altacino since the year I was born. So it's been a really special partnership for us. It's probably the longest standing we have in Altacino. So we're very happy to keep on going.
Wow, I love hearing that. And you know, Altacino is really, started in 1970. So there probably were not that many wineries in Montalcino at that time.
No, because it's funny because Montacino, you think of Italy, and Italy has a very long tradition in wine growing. Obviously, it starts with the ancient Romans, so they've been doing it ever since. But while in Tuscany, there's many wine regions that have been going on for a very long time. You can think, for example, Chianti Classico, the Consorzio of the Chianti Classico was instituted in the 1700s. Montalcino is a quite recent wine growing region. So it got very popular and people understood the value of that territory quite fast, but it started out in 1968. It's true that there were few wine growers that have been there since the 1800s. You can see Biondisanti's family and other very few families. But in 1970, when Montalcino really started as a consorzio, the Brunello di Montalcino was instated as a type of wine. There were probably about 10 or 15 wineries at the time. People still discuss it on the actual number, but Altacino was definitely one of the first wineries to be present on the territory.
And you're actually in a very special place. Altacino is on the north side of the Montalcino appellation, and your wines are also they have a very distinct identity, in my opinion. Can you tell us what makes Altacino so special? What makes the wines so distinctive?
So I think Altacino has been probably one of the first wineries to really concentrate on the terroir and on the really specific wine growing and clones of Sangiovese, even though the way of doing the wine, treating the Sangiovese has always been absolutely traditional. Altacino has always been a very innovative type of winery for the care they took of the vineyards and of the winemaking process. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's getting quite almost religious, I'd say, because for Altacino, the wine has to be the product of the vineyard. And this also shows, yes, it's true, the winery is on the north side of Montalcino, but what makes it very special is the fact that we own 5 different vineyards in 5 different locations, 3 of which are on the north side of Montalcino, but we also have 2 really wonderful vineyards on the south side. So one is southwest and one is southeast. This allows us to put together all the various terroirs that are present in Montalcino area and a lot of different altitudes. So we go from the lowest vineyard we have is around 200, which would be about almost 700 feet above sea level, and the highest, which is Montosoli, is almost 1,200 feet above sea level. So there's a really big span also in altitude, and especially in the type of ground. So we go from Galestro, which we find in Montosoli, which you know, it's a hill that it's very, very special to us. But we also go to almost sandy and limestone soils more on the south side. This allows us every year to find a great balance in our wines, especially the Brunello, the base Brunello, the regular Brunello we produce, because we pick the grapes from both sides of Montalcino, and depending how the summer went, how the weather was. It always allows us to find balance in our wine and deliver good quality year after year. And for us, this is absolutely fundamental and very special, because we want people to identify with Altesino and knowing that they're not going to go up and down every year, but they're going to have quality year after year. And it's a lot of work, because taking care of 5 different vineyards in 5 different locations, and now we just bought a new vineyard, so something new will be coming up in the next few years. But yeah, for us, it's absolutely fundamental. The care of the vineyard. Altesino has been the first one to do specific studies on the terroirs, on the vineyards, and on the clones that we find of Sangiovese in our properties. Especially, this is what brought Altesino to be the first winery to actually produce a single vineyard wine with Montosoli. And this was because they found out that Montosoli, the vineyard they had planted in Montosoli, had a clone of its own, an indigenous clone that would only grow on Montosoli Hill. We tried planting it in other of our vineyards, but it doesn't turn out the same. And this is why you're saying, I think Altesino wines are so recognizable. And I'm very proud to say that every year before the Benvenuto Brunello, which is the fair we have in Italy to present the new vintage years, a lot of the winemakers of Montalcino, they round up together, and the night before the Benvenuto Brunello starts, they have blind tastings of the wines. And Altesino wine is one of the wines that most people will recognize year after year. And probably this is for the care that we gave to the vineyard year after year, and to really make sure that the wine is expression of the land it grows in and not of the cellar. We believe a lot in technology to help us cure the vines, to help us prevent from having to do treatments or having to do any job in the cellar afterwards. But we believe a lot in technology, very little in chemistry. So we try not to use chemistry in our wines, but only use technology to help us deliver a great product year after year.
Technology, but the wines are all aged in the large botti. It's actually very traditional.
Yes. Yes. So the wine, as I said before, it's on one side, Altesino has been very innovative in the way of thinking, in the way of dealing with the vineyards year after year, but at the same time, tradition is absolutely the key point for all our wines. So Sangiovese gives its best when it's treated in a very traditional way, and this means Sangiovese loves the big botti oak barrels. We use Slavonian oak, and we are using a producer in the north side of Italy called Garbellotto, makes our botti. And with them, we studied over the year a special toast, how do you say?
Toast.
You know, when they toast the oak in a special way that we want for our wines. So we've tested year after year, and we found the final and the balance, the perfect balance we want for the wood for our botti. This is because the wood has to be used to really age the wine, but not change the wine. It doesn't have to overcome the wine. What we love, my mom always says that Sangiovese is her true boyfriend. So the one true man of her life is the Sangiovese grape. And that's because it's so special. It's true, it's a difficult grape to deal with, but at the same time, it's such a special grape. And we feel that you don't need the wood to overcome it. Sometimes you find these wines that have been almost, how do you say, like really overcame by the wood. You feel the wood more than you feel the wine. While the Sangiovese really has perfumes that are incredible, that would be a pity to kill them, and also taste and textures that are unique of the Sangiovese grape. So we really love the grape, and we want to be faithful to the grape as much as the grape is faithful to the land it grows in.
And can you tell us about the 2016 vintage? Because we're very excited to start introducing this wine to the market.
Yeah, so we're excited as well. I have to say we come from the 15, which has been another fantastic vintage. And 16, maybe for my taste, it's better than 15 because 16 is even more interesting. 15 was one of those summers and one of those years that it's just easy to be a winemaker, and it's great to make wine, and everything was just very perfect. We had rain in the spring when you needed the rain. You had a warm summer when you needed the warm summer. And when you were picking the grapes in September, the grapes looked fantastic. 16 made it even more interesting because 16 had a very rainy and harsh winter. Then the rain kept on going on even in the spring. Even then, summer was a very hot summer, but the land had a lot of reservoir water, so the plants never went into sufferance. The plants always had enough water to arrive to September in a very healthy way. This made the grapes, though, the heat made the grapes really evolve, the alcohol level and the sugars go up to the level they need to go. And then what makes the difference, the big difference between 15 and 16 was the September of 16. The September had a lot of difference of temperature between night and day. This, really develops the aromas of the wine, and it really gave a bouquet of perfumes that it's so special for 16 that even though you have the big structure and the alcohol level, all the characteristics of a great wine, you also have some incredible aromas coming out from 16 that are very peculiar and unique. So we're super excited to be coming out.
That sounds like my kind of vintage too. A lot with all of the aroma and the intensity of the aroma, the acidity, the freshness is there, but it still has the classic ripeness and I think richness and power of Brunello di Montalcino. So wonderful. And then my colleague, Massimo, he asked me to ask you, can you tell us about the selection for the Riserva and everything that goes into the Riserva that you produce?
Yes. So, we do 3 Brunellos overall in Montalcino, in Altesino. This only in very special vintage years, because the first step for the Riserva is choosing which vintage years are vintage years that we consider suitable for a Riserva, because a Riserva is a different type of wine from the Brunello because it has 1 year longer of aging. So this really makes the wine evolve in a different way. So first choice is evaluating which type of vintage has the grapes that allow the wine to go on for a very long aging process. Riserva, the name itself, it says it's the reserve wine. So it's the wine that has to go on and age for a very long time. It is in the world the longest aged wine, because Brunello di Montalcino Riserva requires 6 years of aging, and there's no other denomination around the world that requires 6 years of aging before you can release it on the market. So for sure, the characteristics we go looking for are obviously the structure that's in the wine that will allow the wine for a very long aging. So that's the first step. And 15 and 16 will both be years, vintage years, in which the Riserva will be produced. And we'll be coming out next year with the 15 Riserva. So the second step is pick the grapes from the 5 different locations we have, the best grapes. So the Riserva is actually the first pick that we do. And our 2 enologists go in the vineyard and they specifically choose the rows, the grapes, but one by one, the grapes that go in the Riserva. The Riserva is a very small production. For us, it's about 1,000 6-pack cases, so it's a tiny production. And we pick the grapes from all 5 locations at the moment. And depending on the vintage year, how the year went, where the grapes were best, because sometimes, you can't command how summer goes. The weather is still the only thing that the human being cannot control. So we depend a lot on how the weather systems go. And every year in September, we know where the best selections will be from. So it's not a set thing. It's a thing we choose year after year, depending on how the vintage went. And we know where to pick the best grapes, and those go in the Riserva for sure. But they have to have the characteristics of grapes that can age a long time. So if you're looking for maybe other types of taste, or you need more aromas, maybe those are not the grapes you're going to pick, even though they are exceptional grapes. But really the characteristics is they have to be grapes that will make a great Riserva, because the Riserva is a different type of wine from the Brunello. I mean, it's Brunello di Montalcino, but it has a different an identity of its own.
Absolutely. Alessandra Angelini from the great Altacino winery in Brunello di Montalcino. Alessandra, I adore your wines. I can't wait to come back to the winery. I'm really missing Italy, missing you. And so hopefully we can come and taste with you soon. And thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you, and we miss all of you a lot as well, and I miss traveling and coming to visit you in the US. I hope we'll be able to go back to, let's say, a normal life quite soon, but we're excited at least to have you taste some of our wines. We never stopped here. We kept on working all the time, and we try to do our best every year to deliver the best product we can.
Us too. Thank you so much, Alessandra.
Thank you. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.